Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today. If you haven't heard of it yet, Squid Game is a Netflix series about a bunch of people who compete in kids' games to win tons of cash, and if they lose the kids' game, they get killed. Now, this isn't necessarily a new concept. There are a whole lot of these death game kind of stories out there, especially in the region where Squid Game originates, which is South Korea. These kinds of nihilistic death game tropes are pretty common in Asia. I don't know exactly what it is about the cultures over there that make them so popular in media, but the real appeal of them, I believe, is the way they offer a broad commentary on society as a whole. And, of course, Squid Game is no exception to this. If you've been on the Bird website or looked around anywhere on the interwebs, really, you've probably seen someone compare Squid Game to something they don't like in a political, economic, or social sense. There's nothing unusual about that. People do it all the time. What's interesting is the kaleidoscopic range of viewpoints that Squid Game supposedly does or does not endorse. I like this. I don't actually like Squid Game a whole lot. Frankly, it's a touch too gratuitous and violent for my tastes. Now, I know that it's not super gory. I mean, there's a lot of blood splatter, but you won't see organs flying all over the place for the most part. The violence just comes off as a little bit indulgent at times. Yes, I know, it's supposed to reinforce the shock and the horror of the situation. Maybe I think this would just have been sold better if it was a little more subtle at times. I didn't watch the full series. I really just watched to episode 6 because most people agreed that that was the best storytelling episode, and then I read summaries of the rest. I have to admit, episode 6 is pretty good. It does some great stuff with character work. It does some very interesting psychological work. Very, very solid storytelling. Then episode 7 started, and there was a bunch of this weird detective stuff. I wasn't a fan of that, and I figured I had better things to do with my time. I don't know. I think the show is fine. I'm not here to try and do a breakdown of it. There are plenty of people who have done that much better than I can. I would rather like to look at Squid Game through the lens of a video I recently made on the Watchmen character, Rorschach. Now, if you haven't watched that video and you don't want to go back, the bird's eye view of it is this. I think Rorschach is a great character and something worthy of study for writers because he is an objectivist character written by a man, Alan Moore, who did not agree with objectivism, but still managed to write an objectivist character in a way that resonated with actual objectivists. That is something that has been lost in modern writing. You cannot write characters you disagree with anymore in ways that feel authentic to the people who share those viewpoints. And that's a shame. Squid Game takes this a step further. Squid Game shows us aspects of society in ways that are truthful and resonant, but don't necessarily espouse a particular viewpoint. Now, you're going to hear that this is a critique of capitalism, that it's a critique of totalitarianism, that it's a critique of the rat race, all kinds of things. What it really is it is a look at how people's choices trap them. Whether it's an over-reliance on violence or strategy, whether it's an addiction to gambling, or an attempt to escape danger that places a person in even greater danger. All of these things are traps that people have built for themselves out of the pieces of their life that already existed. We see thugs, and we see gamblers, and we see refugees, all in this competition, trying to put together the resources to get out of prisons they have built for themselves. And we are all in prisons of one type or another. If nothing else, we are all in a meat sack that is slowly dying. It's not fun to think about, but these are shared human experiences. Everyone digs their own grave at some point in life, whether it's something as simple as lying to your parents and eventually getting caught out, to something as complicated as embezzlement and fraud to support a drug habit or some other unhealthy living style. And it is to Squid Game's credit that it manages to show us this in such a brilliant and vivid way from so many different points of view and give us so many different authentic reactions to that predicament. Squid Game is not a morality tale. I know many people want to treat it like a morality tale, but I don't think that that's ultimately what it accomplishes. What it accomplishes is looking at a single aspect of the human experience from so many different points of view that everyone who sees it finds something they resonate with, something to appeal to them, something that is really strong and reflective of reality. And I think that is why we see so many different people latching onto this story and looking at the aspect that most resembles them and saying, see, this is what I've been saying the whole time. And I think it's to Squid Game's credit that it tells this story without demanding that we take one of these viewpoints for our own. Yes, Gi-han is the only person to survive the Squid Game at the end, which is probably what you expected when it became clear that he was the protagonist of the story. But you don't have to agree with what he does to get there or what he does after he wins. Because Gi-han is not brought to us as an example to follow. He's just the viewpoint we see the most of. Just like Rorschach is a viewpoint that Alan Moore did not agree with, but the viewpoint we saw the story through. This kind of writing ethos is vital to telling these kinds of stories that are trying to look at one aspect of the human experience, because everyone is going to interact with that part of the human experience differently. And if you really want to dig into a story that is all about this one part of the human experience, well, you better show that whole kaleidoscope of the human experience. Or else, you are not going to have the truth that really underpins a great work of art. Squid Game brings us that. It brings us the human experience in all its ugliness and in all of its inspirational nature and in every weird, strange permutation in between. You don't have to like Squid Game. You don't have to like the way it's presented. You don't have to like the violence or the concept or the execution in order to recognize and realize that this principle of storytelling is important and well modeled in this work of art. Anyway, that's all I got for you today, folks. Let me know what you thought of Squid Game down in the comments below. There's a like button and a subscribe button down there you can use as you see fit, and I will talk to you later.